weekend. You've got 4 points against City, I think, in your last 5 games against them, especially given that if they win this weekend, they could win the league if, of course, Manchester United lose.
I think you always approach games against Manchester City, certainly over the last 4 years that I've been at Crystal Palace, with extreme trepidation. That's basically what you do, because they are that good. And however good we ourselves could be on the day, and however hard we work to try and thwart their attacking play and to take advantage of the situation when we get hold of the ball ourselves, we know it's going to be very, very difficult. Just it's been difficult for every team they've played this year. But the beauty is that we have a chance. We have an opportunity. We don't expect it to be easy. We know that we're going to be punished for any mistakes we make in terms of our tactical play or our technical play. But that's par for the course when you're playing the best team in the league. And I'm hoping we're even going to be playing against the best team in Europe, because I'd love to see them win the Champions League.
And what's the aim for you for the rest of the season? Because you're in a decent position, but you've still got some pretty tough games against the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool to come.
Yes, it was good that we got those points on the table early, because, to be honest, we always knew that the run-in of the last 5, 6, 7 games was going to be very, very tough. You know, we've had to go to Everton and Leicester. We've played Chelsea, and now we're playing Man City. Basically, that's probably as tough a programme as the Premier League can throw up at the moment. So we were aware of that, and we knew that there's a risk that we could get found out and we wouldn't get as many points as we would have liked from those games. But it's important to keep competing in them, and I think we showed that on Monday night, that our competitive urge and competitive edge is there. I even thought that the way the team approached the game was good. Didn't get us the 3 points, unfortunately, but we know that's what we've got to keep doing, and every single game's got to be approached in that way.
Wanted to ask you as well about the social media boycott, which starts in, a couple of hours' time. First of all, your views on that. And secondly, as a manager, in recent years, do you find that you're having to deal with that kind of part of the side of football a lot when players are abused online, as well as obviously the footballing side too?
Well, we've certainly had our fair share, Rebecca, of abuse to our players. In particular, Wilf Zaha has been a constant target, if you like, and on 1 or 2 occasions it's even affected, his mental state, as one would expect it to do. In terms of the boycott, I personally am 100% behind it. I really applaud the fact that people have decided to make this quite strong decision in order to turn their backs on social media, albeit for 3 days to start off with at least. But it is a clear statement that people in football are just not prepared to accept that anonymous, vicious people really can say what they like and abuse people any way they like and cause people the mental anguish that they obviously do with their tweets, that we just don't think that is acceptable, and we want the media companies to do something about it. And it's very encouraging, I think, that not only have all the top football agencies, if you like, from UEFA downwards joined in, all the clubs, of course, are 100% behind it, but now we see other sports joining in and, adding, if you like, their what can I say? Well, adding their abhorrence, if you like, of the situation, because there's no doubt it's got worse. It hasn't improved over a period of time, and it's not just going to go away unless people do what they're doing on this occasion, i.e. taking a very, very firm stance and making it clear. We just don't accept it.
Absolutely. And just my final question on you personally, if that's okay. We know your contract's up this summer. How proud are you with what you've done at Crystal Palace? You're one of the longest standing current Premier League managers. And can we expect you to see you at Crystal Palace next season?
Yeah, I'm pleased with the way the 4 years have gone here. I've really enjoyed my time working with the club, so that's a very positive thing. Obviously, we'd always like to be higher in the table than we are. We'd always like to have a few more points on the board than we have. But I think realistically, the work that I and my staff, and in particular this group of players, because it's a group of players that have been together for a very long time. There aren't many teams, I think, that would have as many players in their squad for this game tomorrow with 4 years down the line as we have. So I'm very proud of that. And as far as my situation is concerned, I'm very comfortable at the moment. I shall wait and see how things pan out in the next few weeks, and then it's be quite easy to make a decision then as to whether I want to put myself up for another year of contract or whether I would prefer to move away and if not go into retirement, at least leave the pressures of full-time professional football behind at this level. So I haven't made up my mind on that yet, but I shall do, of course, in the coming weeks. And at the moment, I'm just pleased that I've got these games to really occupy my thoughts and my mind more than the thoughts I would need to have to answer fully the question that you've just posed.
Thanks ever so much. And I hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Becky. We'll go to Scott. Yeah.
Afternoon, Roy. Hope you're well.
I'm okay, thank you. Yes.
Good. Manchester City, such quality in the squad. But hear me out. Is it potentially a good time to play them just because they had the cup final win, the 2 legs against Paris Saint-Germain, despite the fact they've got so many good players, they'll have to rotate and surely mentally they'll be a bit occupied by what's been going on?
Yes, I can't disagree with any of that. I think that the problem is when you have so many good players and your way of playing is so well ingrained and it's seamless when players change places, if you like, in the starting 11. I don't think it's ever going to be a situation where you think, right, this is a golden opportunity because we're playing a weakened team today. We'll be playing maybe a different team to the one that did so well, in winning the League Cup final and in beating Paris Saint-Germain on Wednesday night, wasn't it? So I can accept that people will look at it and say, yeah, this is a good time to play them. But unfortunately, when you're preparing the game and you're looking at potential lineups, I've got no idea what's going through Pep's head. If he intends to keep the same guys that have been playing going or whether he intends to give some a rest and bring others in. Whichever way we look at it, we're always looking at a very good team, a very good team formation, and a team which is more than capable of winning a game against any opponent, let alone, a team like ourselves who are in the bottom half of the table. So I doubt for 1 minute, I don't doubt, I should say, for 1 minute that we'll be playing against the Manchester City who are at full throttle. I don't expect for 1 minute them to have taken their foot off the gas or their eye off the ball, to mix metaphors, in any way, shape or form. But I can't deny, of course, that if I was the Manchester City coach, I would definitely be thinking, blimey, this game now coming up in the middle of everything that's been going on, it's not ideal. And I'm full of admiration, really, for Chelsea and Man City, for Arsenal and Manchester United, having to play these incredibly difficult games in the midst of still what is an important Premiership campaign for them. So we have it easy by comparison.
I know that you said that the Leicester game was a good sign that the players aren't losing their focus during the run-in, that they're still sharp, they're still motivated. You mentioned trepidation whenever you play Manchester City, but is there also added motivation going toe-to-toe with the best for you and for the players? Yeah,
that's a good point too. I think there is. I think that was evident the other night against Leicester. We knew that was going to be a tough game. We know they've got some very good players and, of course, they're in excellent form. But I think the way that we played the game and the way the game panned out, we can even suggest that on another day we might even have got a result from that game. And had we done so, we'd have deserved it. So certainly the motivation was there on Monday night to play a team of Leicester's quality, and I'm sure it will be there tomorrow to play a team of Manchester City's quality. So these are things, if you like, that could ease the trepidation somewhat. But unfortunately, the trepidation will always be there because you know that the teams you're playing against can punish you so quickly and so harshly for even the smallest, if you like, of mistakes. You literally don't get away with anything, and they don't give you anything. So you've got to be at the very, very height of your game in every respect if you're going to get something from it.
Just going back to the Leicester game, Eze played in a slightly different position. What did you make of his performance there?
Well, we never really know. Every is a player who's played in lots of positions. I don't I think that he's a very talented ball player, a very good offensive midfield player. We're trying to encourage him to be not only a good offensive midfield player, a good all-round midfield player. I don't think it's a problem that he plays in a position slightly further infield, because that's where he played a lot of his time at Queen's Park Rangers. He'd even played centrally in behind the centre forward. So it's just a different position that we asked him to play on Monday night in terms of giving us the setup to play Leicester that we wanted. But it certainly wasn't asking him to do anything that he's not comfortable with. And if you ask him, of course, he prefers to be further infield than playing out wide.
And just finally from me, just going back to Manchester City, you've been in the game for a long, long time. So many superlatives have been used to describe them. What words would spring to mind for you to describe this current Manchester City side?
What words spring to mind? Well, I think first of all, they have a very clear pattern of play. They're very organised and extremely patient with that pattern of play as well, because it's a pattern of play that's obviously been well drilled in through lots and lots of time on the training ground. But it's also a team and a squad that's been put together in order to be able to perpetuate that sort of pattern. So the players that Pep's been able to bring in have been the right sort of players for the style of play that he sees his team playing. I think the thing that probably impresses me most about them, outside of the very obvious facts, technically they're outstandingly good. I think the players' understanding and decision making on the ball, their passing, it's a joy to watch, unless you're trying to get a result against them with your team on the other side. But probably the thing that impresses me perhaps more and more of that is the work rate. I think it's quite amazing that in the past and traditionally, your really talented players, the ones who win matches for you because they produce goals, they find the decisive passes, they score the goals. They're the ones who quite often don't do as much running as you perhaps like them to do, don't make as many unselfish runs for the team as perhaps you'd like them to do, and certainly don't sprint as quickly back into recovery positions as you'd like them to do. Unfortunately, for all of us who play Man City, Pep Guardiola's got a team that does all of those things. So in actual fact, what you could possibly have gained over them, okay, we can't match your technical ability perhaps, and maybe you've got one or two players of a higher calibre than we can put out against you, but we'll run harder than you, we'll fight harder than you, we'll chase harder than you. I'm afraid that doesn't work, because they invariably win that statistic as well.
Thank you, Roy. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rota Emma Jones of BBC.
Good afternoon, Roy. On the subject of Manchester City, Pep Guardiola has sort of half joked in the past that his success has been because they've been able to spend an awful lot of money on players. There's some truth in that, though, isn't there?
Well, I think the truth in that, I learned many, many years ago that, basically speaking, people don't come to watch football matches in order to look at the owners or the chairman, and they certainly don't come to the football matches to watch the coaches and the managers on the sidelines. They come to watch the players, because the players, in actual fact, at the end, they're going to win your matches or lose your matches. So I think it's a fairly common thought amongst us football managers that you can do the best you can with the players you have around you, but sometimes you're going to come across a team which has all the qualities and is equally as well organised you are yourself, but they might have been able to put together a better and more talented group at any one moment in time. And so certainly Pep's right to make that point. But on the other hand, these players need someone to lead them. These players, however good they are, De Bruyne at this moment, in my eyes, is just totally outstanding in everything he does. But he still needs someone to lead him. He needs someone to help him have the players around him that are working in the right sort of way. So I don't think that Pep should underestimate the importance of the work that he's done as a manager and coach. But of course, it would have been a bit harder for him had he not been able sometimes, when vacancies in his team were coming up and positions that he wanted to fill in order to keep the play going. If he'd not been able to sign those players or get those players, maybe life would have been a bit harder. But I still think that with his work and the way the club is organised and operates, that their position at the top of the table is more than merited, and what's more, shows no signs of diminishing in any way.
One player, though, for them who is particularly exciting everybody at the moment is Phil Foden, who is homegrown. I wonder, do you think there should be an emphasis on clubs bringing through their own players, much like Crystal Palace like to do?
Well, it depends what you mean by an emphasis. I think you'd be hard pushed to find clubs in the Premier League today who don't, if you like, embrace the idea, embrace the theory that we need to produce some players of our own. We need to use our academy, which we spend money on and work hard with, to get some players through who come up into the first team, which means we don't always have to go out and buy a player when a position becomes vacant. So everyone's obviously behind that. I would say that there are players in his team, Pep, that get forgotten. I mean, I worked with a young Raheem Sterling at Liverpool. He was still pretty young when he went to Man City. And certainly in players like himself and who else? I mean, Foden is an obvious example. I think Carl Walker is an example. I think that we've seen those players grow. In that environment, Pep might say modestly, well, it's the players around them that have helped, and I'm sure that's true as well. But I've got no doubt that his leadership with those players has been very, very important. And we all know that to produce the level of performance which is needed today to get into Champions League semi-finals and hopefully finals, you're going to need an awful lot of athleticism. You need an awful lot of youthful energy. And as a result, you're always going to be looking at players like Foden to come in and provide that for you.
As for your team, talking of youthful energy, do you think there is a need for a refresh of the Palace squad in the summer?
Well, we've talked about it for a long time. We talked about it last summer. I'm pretty certain I can never remember what I said yesterday, let alone a year ago, but I'm pretty sure that going into this season, we were probably talking about, well, it'd be good if we can sign some younger players and introduce some new faces to help the guys who've been here so long, and to introduce some youthful energy and perhaps running power. It wasn't possible for us last year. We achieved it with one player. We got Eberechieze, who I think is an outstanding young talent and certainly the type of player the club's going to need moving forward. But we could only introduce the one. But there's no shortage of intention or hope that will be the case. And with so many players out of contract this season, it's pretty obvious that either we're going to carry on as a club with exactly the same group as we've had for the last 4 years, or there will be players perhaps coming in who will help the ones who've been here so long by bringing a bit of competition and maybe bringing a bit of youthful energy.
Thank you, Roy.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much. We'll go to George Sessions of PA.
Hi, Roy. Just wanted to check on James Tomkins. I think you mentioned last week he was back in training. How far away is he from being back involved in the sort of match day squad?
Well, hopefully not too far. I mean, it's a confidence factor as well as far as he's concerned. But physically, he's doing well at the moment. I mean, he certainly doesn't seem to have lost anything that he had before the injury. But of course, it was a nasty injury. And when you've got an injury to your eye, it's not quite like coming back from a calf strain or a thigh strain. But I'm hoping that we're going to see him in the under-23s on Monday, which will be his first chance of playing, full-time football, if you like, or playing 90 minutes football for a long time. He's been in training for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks possibly even, and that's gone well. It's been progressive, but it's gone well. So now's the moment, I think, to say, right, this is the closest we can get to throwing you in the deep end without putting you straight back into the team. So Monday will be an important day for James. If he comes through that and is confident he's come through that, then I think there's no reason why we can't expect him to be pushing on for a place in the team in the last 5 matches, 4 matches maybe. I lose track now.
Still waiting for the Southampton game to be arranged, isn't there? Just to pick you up on something you mentioned about Wilf and how the kind of abuse that he receives regularly, it seems, unfortunately, has affected him. Has there sort of ever been occasions where you've kind of had to give him time off from training, or just sort of had to check in on him, really, given how much it sounds like it has affected him?
No, I've got to say that he's a stronger, much more resilient character than that, and a stronger character than that. He's never even indicated to me that, you know, this has hurt me so much mentally that I can't train or play football. But there's no doubt that a lot of the things that have gone on have had a serious effect on him. And I find it very difficult myself to appreciate how much these players are able to take, really, and how strong they can be in the face of such vile abuse from anonymous people. It's tough enough if you're confronted by someone who abuses you, but at least then you've got the person in front of you, and you can argue your case, or you can at least get some better feeling. Why am I deserving of this abuse? But all these anonymous people, we don't even know who they are. I mean, the worst thing that I think has happened in relation to the social media for me is before a very important game at the end of last season, a very important game for Aston Villa, more so than us. We weren't fighting relegation, they were. But the morning of that game, Wilf woke up to, you know, some of the vilest abuse possible, and that certainly did affect him. You know, he was, you know, mentally challenged, if you like, by that level of abuse. But what really affected me was when they tracked down the person. They did track down that. It was an 11 or 12-year-old boy. I mean, it makes you wonder where society is going, one, but B, what sort of platforms are these social media platforms that allow a 12-year-old boy who maybe doesn't even know better, maybe he's just aping, you know, older people around him. What sort of platform is this that you can get on and do these things? It's frightening, really. It's frightening for Wilf, the person who's been abused, but it frightens me as well that the abusers are people of this nature. So let's hope this ban has some sort of effect. Let's hope that the companies that run social media and become extremely wealthy on the back of it, they do start thinking we've got to do more ourselves to regulate our site, so that it's not quite so simple that anyone at home in the anonymity of their study can say whatever they like to whoever they like.
Thanks, Roy.
Pleasure.
Thank you, George. Okay, that ends the broadcast.